All right. We're just gonna talk. We're just gonna talk.
Yeah, that's
Awesome. I can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. All right. I'm supposed to let you know, right?
and that says we are now live. So good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's Faika's midweek on Tuesday. We are the Faika podcast, and we have the most obnoxious backgrounds you've ever seen. So if if too busy to the eye is bad for you, it might not be the right show. We're testing out our new backgrounds. Pretty obnoxious, but I kind of like it. I'm your host, Carl. With me is your lovely host, Naki. Good afternoon, Naki.
Hi, happy Tuesday.
Naki got us an amazing guest that we weren't sure we were going to be able to get on because we made an assumption that they were halfway around the world and they're only halfway across the country. So go ahead, Naki.
We have Tawsh Lav, right?
Yeah.
Short, really Tasha Teeny Tali, but we're gonna go by Tawsh Lav because that's what we all know her by. She is an amazing, amazing artist, one of my favorites. She was born in California, raised in American Samoa. Her journey, so I'm just gonna read a little bit of your bio. She's been drawing for as long as she can remember, but began designing Polynesian artwork when she was in college at Washington State University. It was there where she found a connection to her roots, and then opportunity to help others do the same through her artwork. I first saw your work on Instagram right when it was like instant. You popped up in my news feed, and then I started following you, and then so. And because of your work, my kids are learning. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me keep reading. Tasha's most proudest achievement has been creating a Samoan language and art calendar that features one Samoan word and its English translation for every day of the year, as well as original artwork for every month. She's currently based in South Carolina with her performing family, who run the Polynesian Fire Luau show. And so welcome, Tawsh, for coming, and thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Invite. Oh, I'm so honored to be
the honor is ours.
Gosh, I'm a fan, so I'm like fangirling over here. But I don't know why I assumed you were in New Zealand, and then I'm so glad that I reached out because I've been wanting to reach out for a minute, and then just in my head, I was like, different time zones, but you're in South Carolina. So tell us, I know that you were born in California, raised in Samoa. Tell us a little bit about your background and where you grew up, the village. Just tell us a little bit about your family and your baby.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm Afakasi. My dad's Samoan. My mom is white. And I grew up in Malaimi or Nuuliuta. It's kind of a gray line area, but it's pretty close to Manmalo, like the school.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so I grew up there since I was 2 years old, and I have 3 brothers. They're all born there. And, we stayed in the house. I graduated I left the island when I was about 17 when I went to Washington State. And that was my first time living off the island,
Oh, wow.
And that was a huge culture shock for me because growing up in Samoa, I always thought I was white because I went to, public school, elementary, and then Fasao Marist High School. But I always thought I was white because I was teased that way, I mean, you know how kids are, right? And so I just thought like, oh, okay, once I leave this island, I'm going to go find my white people. And when I went to State, I found like the opposite side of the coin. I was like, wow, okay, I'm not white. Like I guess that's when I started really like growing an appreciation for my Samoan side. It's like all that stuff I took for granted growing up. I got to meet other Samoans who actually grew up in the States, and they've never been to the islands, and they didn't know very much about the culture. And it was just, I don't know, it really did a number on me to like meet people who wanted so badly to connect to their culture and didn't know it. While I grew up there, and I'm just like, I didn't think I knew that much about Samoan culture. Because if you ask anyone from back home, it's like, oh no, she's the white girl. But then I came to the States, and somehow I had all this knowledge that I just grew up with, and it provided value to my peers. I was able to use a lot of what I knew growing up, things I didn't think were important or I took for granted, to help other Polynesians, to get them in connection with their backgrounds. And that just meant a lot. Like, that really opened my eyes, as to, I guess, my purpose in life, or that's about as close as I can say it, how it felt.
Right.
And
how did you end up Washington State? So you're coming from American Samoa. How do you pick Eastern Washington as
oh my
where you
God,
want to go?
that's so embarrassing. I followed a boyfriend.
That's fine.
I
Hey, we follow our hearts. That's just the way it goes.
Well, my parents did not want me to leave the island. I'm the oldest, and the only girl, and they were just like, no, we want you to stay. Like, just go to community college here. But I was like, no, I need to leave. But I don't know anywhere else I could go. My mom wanted me to go to other schools where she could keep tabs on me. I was like, no, I'm not about that.
That's why I'm leaving.
Just gonna follow you. And then I went to Washington State, and I was like, okay, this is very, very different from the islands.
Did you find PIs going, because there's the football team has Samoans there's a history of Samoans at Washington State. So did you run into Pacific Islanders, or specifically Samoans on campus?
Yeah, I ran into all of them. So my freshman year, I didn't know anything about the PI club. I was very much by myself. I didn't really have very many friends. That was a very tough year for me. And it wasn't until my sophomore year when I found out about the Pacific Islanders Club, where I met, all the Polynesian people. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I finally feel, it was so ironic, because I was like, oh my gosh, it feels like home. When I never really felt that before. It was just so great, because as soon as they they saw me and they met me, they're like, oh, are you Samoan? I was like, yeah, I'm Afakasi. And then they're like, oh, what's up, sis? And when you it's so great when you go anywhere in the States and you see another Samoan. Like, if I see someone with Samoan tattoos, I'm like, hey, talofa. It's such a great, you already know your family.
Right. That's like that everywhere you go, you see another Samoan or Pacific Islander, you either nod, the men do the, and or we walk over and talk, hey, my name is, so and so. It's so happy to see you.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's such a great feeling, especially because my freshman year, I didn't see any of them. I only saw, sea of like blonde hair, blue eye, white people. And I was like, wow, okay, there's no Polynesians. Like, there wasn't very much diversity. And then sophomore year, I was like, oh, well, here you guys are.
Go
ahead, Naki.
Did you have, like you're saying, in Samoa, they were like, white girl, white girl, white girl. Did you have any of that here in the States, where everybody's like, oh, white girl, like they were just, I don't know. I always feel like Samoans are always trying to find themselves, right? And then the Afakasi thing was a debate. People were debating whether you're too white or you're too Samoan or you're too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your question, are you asking if US based Samoans felt that way about me?
Yeah.
Not really, not as much. I mean, it's very rare, and usually when they do that, it's no, actually, no, not really, because I think there's, especially when they get to know me and they start talking to me and they realize, oh man, this girl's from the island.
Yeah.
Like, I guess there's a certain presence there, or something that they recognize. And
I think that what you had talked about earlier is Polynesians, Samoans that grew up in the U.S. that weren't born and raised Samoa. Were you seen as more Samoan when you moved to you moved to the U.S., the mainland, and you're around other Polynesians that weren't growing up, that didn't grow up in the culture, were there a certain respect for you because you spoke the language, you understood the customs, or those kind of things?
A little bit. I think when we first met each other, they kind of just thought, like, oh, she's like us, like she probably doesn't really know. But then, when I started to really exude that Samoanness in the things that I knew, and actually so for what I was saying about how I grew up in Samoa and I thought I was white, that it sucks to say now, but growing up in American Samoa, I completely rejected the Samoan culture. I made a point not to learn Samoan because I was teased so bad about it. Even now when I speak, I have a very Palangi accent that I still try to, try to get over that. My husband is fluent. He's great. And he's always like helping me with it. But it is something I really wish that I made it a point to learn Samoan. But I had in my mind, I was like, no, I'm white. I'm going to go meet white people and I'm going to belong finally.
Yeah.
I was a sensitive kid. But when I came to the States, yeah, you're right. Like I did know more Samoan than a lot of these other Samoans who look full Samoan.
Yeah.
They look like they're from the island. But when you talk to them, when you speak to them, they're very American.
Right.
I think once they started to because I also was in a position in the Pacific Islanders Club where I was teaching them, like I was a choreographer, I was their artist, I was even vice president. I was doing workshops where I was teaching them stuff because my brothers are fire knife dancers. So I would do workshops teaching them fire knife or teaching them all these Samoan customs. And so they kind of looked at me with, I guess, there was a lot of respect there too, just because they were learning from me about their culture.
Yeah, I think it's such a weak, inaccurate saying, the sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me thing. As a kid, words mean, when you get told something or you get called something or you get repeatedly, bullied or told certain things or called certain things, that stuff matters as much, if not more, than getting beat up or getting, physically manhandled or whatever. But it's interesting that you embraced your Samoanness once you got to the States and you started teaching and you started, especially your art, I would think. Did you become more artistic when you got to the mainland, or was that something that was always with you?
So I've been drawing for as long as I can remember, since I was like 3 or something. I was drawing Ninja Turtles, but I was not doing Polynesian art or Samoan art. I did take a Samoan art class in high school, but my teacher said my art looked like surfboard art, which it did. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. But then when I got to, so I didn't think I could touch Samoan art, Polynesian art. Remember, I was like, no, I'm not Samoan enough to touch that. That's too sacred. I had a very deep respect for Polynesian art, so I didn't touch it. And then I got to the States and the Pacific Islanders Club, they were like, oh, you're an artist and you're Polynesian, so you must know how to do Polynesian art. And I kept like, the first instance was we have an annual luau and they were doing banners for the background. And another girl, she's Chamorro, and she was doing the different island tribal, the different designs on the banners. And the president, she was Samoan at the time. She's Afakasi, I believe. And her friend, she's from American Samoa too. And she approached me and she was like, hey, can you do the Samoan banner? I just want a Samoan to do it, if that's okay. And I was like, I don't think, and it was very weird for me because, growing up your whole life thinking like you're not Samoan enough. And then the president of this Pacific Islanders Club was like, hey, can you do it? Because I want a Samoan to do it. I could have cried. It's like, what? So I kept trying to tell her like, look, I don't think I'm your girl. Like, I'm not as Samoan as you think I am. And, I felt like a fraud. But she's like, no, I know you can do it. I've seen some of your work. And I was like, oh, I can't let her down. Yeah. So I went to everything I remembered, like everything that I taught and all the research, and I did a banner, and I was terrified to present it to her. I was like, she's gonna hate this. Everyone's gonna hate it. They're gonna see that I'm a fraud. And I presented it to her. I remember it was the day of the luau. I show up and I'm like, hey, I have the banner. And she's like, okay, oh, you know, do you mind if I open it right here? It's like right here. It was is stepping up, and I'm like, oh great, okay, here it comes. And she opened it, and everyone stopped what they were doing, and they came and they looked at it, and they're like, wow, that's so awesome. It was definitely different than the other banners. The other banners were beautiful, but there was definitely a lot of mana.
Yeah, that Naki and I are big believers in. How do we feel about uncomfortable, Naki?
If you're uncomfortable, you're growing. He digs that into me because I'm like, I don't feel like doing it today. You're uncomfortable, you're definitely growing. So
what a great moment.
Right. That's
oh
awesome.
yeah, I believe that too. Yeah. You're comfortable where growth is, where growth happens.
Yeah, you get, and that's a gift, and I know some people that are just comfortable being uncomfortable, like, and they will just, it seems like they're spontaneous, and then you talk to them and they're like, no, that scares the hell out of me. Like, I don't know exactly how to do that, and I'm just like, but you just do it. Like, how do you take that on? We always talk about there's a nonprofit in the Bay Area called Samoan Solutions, and
oh yeah, I love that.
yeah, Epi and Fonga, and they just decided to do the play, the Fangongo Samoa play. And do you have stage background? Do you have any of the casting calls and auditions and music and backdrops and all those kind of? Nope, we're just gonna. And I look at that and think, I would need like 5 years to study up and go to like 50 plays and learn everything. And they're just like, yeah, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like that's a very Samoan approach too. Like a lot of like my husband, that sounds a lot like my husband. He's like that. Like a year ago, he didn't know how to fire knife dance. And then he came up, he was with my brothers, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. Like just and then now he's like a really great fire knife dancer. And my dad is like that, hardcore. I feel like a lot of Samoans, they, we are like that, where we see something and it's like, you know what, that looks very interesting, that looks very cool. I think I'm gonna do that.
Do it. Right.
Yeah, we were doing
also what gets us in trouble too with like
yes,
licenses and stuff. It was like, wait, what, I need a license for this?
Right.
Being fearless can have its drawbacks too. We were talking to our uncle last weekend, and he was talking about going to and he was born in the 30s, right, Nagy?
Right.
And he was talking about being one of the first Samoans in the Air Force, and he liked the uniform. Like, he was walking past a poster and just, I can do that. Like, that looks cool to me. And then he was, he didn't see. I think he was saying he didn't remember seeing other Samoans in the Air Force. So he might have been the first, but it was I could do that, and just signed up, and off he went. Great. And he ended up going to Germany and seeing the world, but on a walking past a poster and a whim of like, that looks cool, I can do that.
Yeah, just why not? So cool.
Is your family still in Samoa, or are they all out here in the States?
I don't have any immediate. My uncle is down there. I have a lot of extended family down there, but my dad, my mom, my brothers, we're all here. We actually have our own little village over here in South Carolina. You know how we do. So I live in the back. My brothers live in the front. My other brother lives side. There's my dad's house, my mom's house.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So the artwork, so it started. There's a lot of Samoans here in the Bay Area where we're at in California that are born here, raised here. And so we weren't like, even myself, the language, I'm trying to learn the language. I can understand it, but I'm not confident enough to speak it back to people. And so there's a lot of classes where we're trying to teach, the classes that are starting up that are trying to teach someone their own language, you know. And so even my kids are like, gosh, mom, you didn't even talk Samoan to me. Where my husband is fluent, but
Yeah.
he just, I don't know, he just spoke English to them like me. And so everyone's hungry now to learn the language. And so with your artwork, your beautiful artwork, what gave you the idea to start a calendar, to put the words on, you know what I mean? It's like, it is literally a learning tool in our household, because if you don't know, Tosh makes a calendar, a Samoan calendar, and I have it here. See it? Can you see it? Oh, there you go. Anyway, it's because of my filter, but she makes a calendar, and it is filled with, every day has a Samoan word and the translation in English. And so my kids who want to learn just basic, they just want to get by, right? There was some, and I remember growing up when an elder would speak to me in Samoan and I didn't understand them, I would freak out. I would just
Yeah.
freak out. I can't, they're gonna, they're, they always, oh, you don't know how to speak Samoan, and they would go off. But I love the calendar because every day I'm like, okay, to my daughter, what's the word for today? And then they try to sound it out, and if they need help, and then we start to incorporate it into our vocabulary. So I love that calendar. Absolutely love that calendar. I gave my daughter, my older daughter, the same calendar. I got a couple of calendars, and she uses it daily. What gave you the idea to even begin a calendar and to even think of the concept of, well, let's do a word every day?
Yeah. Oh man, that's another interesting story. So I had the idea for a while just because I was studying. That was when I was really deeply studying the language and trying to get good at it, especially because my daughter was, I don't think she was even a year old yet. And I really wanted her to grow up knowing the language, let her have that gift I didn't have. Where I rejected it, I wanted her to grow up bilingual. And I just didn't think it would ever take, like, I didn't have confidence in myself to create it. It's just kind of one of those like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if someone did something like this? That would be so cool. Because I was looking for resources and there just weren't that many, and the ones that are available are so expensive. And so it was actually out of necessity because we had a huge hurricane that came by here in South Carolina, and it flooded our house. And it was just devastating for us in so many ways. And my brothers and my husband, they were working on the house here trying to fix it up, from all the damage, while I relocated to Florida, of all places, with my daughter. And it was just me and her for, man, it was a few weeks. And I was like, man, what are we going to do for money? Like, there's no job. Like we got to make repairs on the house. And once everything was like settled and we came back, my husband and I were like, okay, what are we going to do? And like, he was working, but he barely had any hours. So it was really hurting us. And I had an Etsy shop on the side that I wasn't doing very much with. And I was like, okay, I gotta beef this up somehow, like, where all that lack of confidence just went out the window. I was like, okay, I need to do this. And I told my husband about this idea, this calendar, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, what do you think? I wasn't confident at all in the idea, but he, listening to me, was like, you need to do that. Okay, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to stay home with our daughter, and you are going to lock yourself in the room and you're going to do this calendar. Oh. And so the very first one, I did it in like, I want to say 3 to 4 weeks, where I just shut myself in the room. And I mean, hardcore, you see that calendar. It's
beautiful. And the detail, I wish I could, I think.
You put it all the way up to the camera so it doesn't see you, because it's going to focus on your face if it sees you.
Or I just got to turn this filter off real quick. But, oops. Let me just
Oh,
turn the virtual
here,
background.
I got. So this is this year's calendar.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I just want the artwork is crazy beautiful. It's just crazy beautiful.
Thank you. I was so nervous coming out with this calendar. I was just thinking like, again, like, oh, everyone's gonna think I'm a fraud, but
No.
it was all from, just wanting to learn Samoan, and also my experience in the PIC, because now that I know that there are so many Samoans who don't have that connection, it just
Right.
and my daughter is now, could easily be one of them. I was like, okay, let's do this. And it came out, and that first year for those calendars, like the money that came from that went to house repairs, went to our Christmas, went to our Thanksgiving. It really. Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. It's if you don't have the calendar, you even now, I know it's the end of the year, but it's just beautiful. Like I want to frame the month because they're so awesome. Like I have my office in my bedroom, so I think that's what I'm gonna do now looking at it. But I purposely, when I put up a month, I always think, okay, I didn't go through all the months. I just, when it's the next month, when I flip it, that's when I first see it. And every month is even more beautiful than the month before. And I don't know, I don't know how you come up with these color schemes and the idea. I love your work. I love your eye and your artistic, I don't know what the word is, but I love it. I love the calendar, and I don't mean to embarrass you. Yeah, I don't mean to embarrass you, but yeah, it's everything about the calendar is beautiful. And I really do recommend. I mean, when I got the calendar, I was telling people, oh my God. And I think there's like 4 or 5, it could be more, when I went to Journey to Empowerment, which is this support group kind of that happens once a month, every first Friday of the month. And I was like, oh my God, I got this calendar. And I swear to you, there was like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 people were like, I got that calendar too. And I was like, okay, I'm not the only one that sees how amazing this work is, which I'm sure you know from all the calendars that you've sold. But what is lighting the fire under you to make all these beautiful artworks?
Man, hearing stories like yours. Exactly it, knowing that I'm doing something that feels like it's helping other people, like it's, I put a lot of myself in there, and with the intention of, helping other people. And I imagine my daughter all the time, like I want to grow up with these stories, and that's why every year I try to make it a point to at least make one artwork that has a Samoan legend in there, and stories or designs where people are going to ask like, oh, I wonder what that is, and then they can do some research and learn more about it. And then I don't know if you follow the Samoan calendars page on Instagram, but after the first calendar, people were asking about pronunciation. I was like, I don't have enough room on the calendar for that, so I created an Instagram page where my husband, he actually pronounces all the words for people.
I've seen that.
So, yeah,
it's awesome though. I just love it.
Oh, thank you. And now I have people asking about sentences. So we're thinking about hopefully creating a YouTube where we can use the words and sentences too, little by little. And that's not stuff that I want to charge for, because I know that there are just not very many resources at all available, with the Samoan language. I mean, there's another person on Instagram. He's like, it's like a Amu Uso, and he's great.
William Fonene. We had him on the show too, and he has an app, but he is on every day, and it's free. Every day he's teaching something, so it's awesome.
I love that. Yeah, there's a kindred spirit there. I love what he does, and he promotes our calendar too. So it's really great to see people doing it for the community. And then he also gets a little bit of strife too when people are like, oh, that's not how you do it, that's not how you say that, and I get that too with my artwork, where people are like, oh, that's not accurate or something. I'm like, oh man.
Art. It's how
Everybody.
you see it. It's how, like, then you go do it. Go come up with
Yeah.
your own stuff, right?
That's
Exactly.
your interpretation of it. I think that when you make people feel, Naki and I always talk about how, what goes viral. Well, it's something that makes somebody feel like it. That's so funny. I have to share it. That is so tearful or so impactful that I have to share it. And I was at the Journey to Empowerment when Naki said that, and I was like, "But what am I missing out on? Like, what's this count? What are you talking about?" So I'm not on. I don't have an Instagram account, but I think that do you feel like you put yourself out there in the sense of, so you make a calendar. I'll do this with like a post. If I like pour my heart into a post, then I'm always like, oh man, people are gonna be like, what is
They'll
that stupid
you
stuff?
up, right?
Yeah. So
Uh,
you feel that way when you like the banner, right? You're like, oh my God, are people gonna, are they gonna like this? Are they gonna love it? Are they gonna be indifferent? Do you feel like that when you're pouring yourself into your art pieces? That like what did you expect with your first calendar? Were you concerned about like, I'm putting myself out there and are people like, nobody's gonna buy a single calendar?
all the time. I feel that way all the time. And I think what helps me personally is that that's kind of a default setting for me. Since growing up, I've always felt like that. I've never not felt that way, where I feel like I'm being judged or criticized. And I mean, I've heard it all. I've heard some of the most horrible things you could ever say to a person, like very racist things, and from my own family too. Like my aunt calls the house, like I don't even know her, but I know we're related, and she's asking for my dad, and she's speaking Samoan. And at the time, I was probably like 13. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, can you speak English? And oh man, I had an
Oh.
earful. It was
Right.
and I got that all the time. And so for the calendar, it was definitely, I still feel that way, where I worry about it, but I'm always constantly telling myself or reminding myself why I'm doing it, and I remind myself of like the bullies I had, in school. It's like a lot of them now are people who support my artwork,
And
which
that's
it's,
awesome.
yeah, it's so funny. 'Cause, like some of these people, like they really made my life pretty difficult growing up, but I can recognize that they were kids,
Right.
and then now, it's different. They're very happy to see what I'm doing. Like they want me to do art for them, and I try to
How
remind.
they tell it. You know how they tell it. I went to school with her. She was
Yeah.
my friend in school.
She's my friend.
That's I know I get it all the time, and I'm just like, okay, cool. And I take those little blessings. I try to look at it in a positive way. I mean, my brothers definitely, and my husband, they definitely get defensive of me when sometimes they'll read like my messages, and
Mm-mm.
well, they'll be like, oh, they can't talk to you like that, or comment.
I
I
think
remember.
that the bigger
Always gonna
you get,
like that.
it's always right. The bigger
Yeah.
you get, that's when all the haters come out. They always
Yeah,
got
it
something-
helps too that like I'm a big fan of The Rock, and I see him get so much hate too, especially with all this political stuff. I see him getting hate. I'm just like, okay, if someone like The Rock gets hate, then like like everybody does, and I just try to take it in a positive light too.
Right.
Remember,
Joe Rogan saying, Joe Rogan was saying like, somebody goes, yeah, I remember that interview you had with somebody, and Joe Rogan goes, yeah, that was amazing. We got into it about something, and then the guy goes, yeah, but the comments, man, they went in on you. And Joe goes, I don't read the comments. Like you can't read the comments. There's going to be people in there that are just trying to piss you off, that aren't like, they don't have anything better to do than to try to irritate somebody or make somebody mad online. But Joe's like, I don't read any of the comments. Like it is what it is, and keep moving on. But it's
That's hard.
interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I get
Oh,
notifications.
Naki.
I gotta go read it.
We need more people because Naki does not like. She'll like, did you see what somebody said? I'm like, don't. I'll respond. You don't respond.
Yeah, I have to read the comments because I have to read. I'm like, I have to. But
I have
you
to.
know,
Once I get a notification, I go straight to it. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
But
But
when you're, you know, when you're running a business or you're marketing and stuff, like you have to be able to respond to these to every you know, and then ignore the bad stuff. But like I said, growing up the way that I did, I feel like I was predisposed, you know, to all that. So it's nothing new.
It's interesting that how that different people get different motivations.
Mhm.
So having that feeling of when you're pouring yourself into a piece of your art, that you're like, you know, you're, oh my gosh, or people get like that apprehension or that anxiety. But then that's a piece of your art, right? That's a piece of the process as you create. I remember reading a interview with Jerry Rice, and he was talking about why he does these crazy off-season workouts, and he's like, I'm afraid to lose. Like I
Right.
I hate losing more than I like winning. And to hear, you know, that kind of like, wow, he's afraid. He goes, I'm afraid somebody else is working harder than me in the off season. So I stay in shape 24/7, 365. But I was like, I thought everybody was motivated to win. And then you realize that not everybody, but people have different ways of going about their art. I never really thought about, I hate to lose more than I love to win. Um, and so you doing your art and thinking, you know, like there's not going to be a single person that buys this calendar. What year are you in? How many years have you done?
This is the third year for my calendar. Yeah.
And more coming, right?
and have you started the 2021?
Yeah, this is the 2021. This one. It's already up for sale.
Oh, it is already. Oh, I missed it. I gotta go. They're great Christmas gifts. And somebody in the chat just said it will make great Christmas gifts. He's going to go on, find her on Instagram and Etsy. And then I'll put all your information on our site so that people can get it.
Yeah.
But I think they'll make great gifts.
I'm so nervous to ever do that. Like I know people, a lot of my friends who do that, they buy from me in bulk and then they sell them for Christmas gifts. And I don't do that because I feel like I'm the salesman friend, you know. It's like, oh yeah, here, take my product as your gift. And I don't know if people legitimately want these as gifts from me or you know.
We'll do that for you. You don't have to.
We will do that for you. I will be promoting.
Give me some, Naki. Give you some
Well,
of those.
I absolutely love it.
If you guys ever want to buy in bulk, just let me know because I do give discounts for multiple orders.
Yeah, no, I'm totally going to get the new calendars because I love your calendars. Our family loves it. And it's the thing of when you go to a store, all we see are calendars that don't relate to us. And I think that's why your calendar is such a hit, is that we see that it's a Pacific Islander that's doing it, and it's art that we connect with,
Yeah.
We see the art, we see the the gods and the malu and all the animals that have all the tattoos and you have the belu, but it's everything that connects us to our culture. And so when we go to a regular store, we see the calendar, like I see a calendar and I'm like, no.
Only thing you see in the stores is sunsets and beaches in Hawaii.
Right.
Which I don't have anything. I love seeing sunsets and beaches in Hawaii, but that's not all of Polynesia. That's not all of Pacifica. There's more to it than that.
Exactly. I mean, eventually I want to do an artwork with the Ainga bus, because I mean, everybody knows the Ainga bus in Samoa, just little things that take you home, like things that are reminiscent of just home or
just wanted to do this. Was one of my favorite pieces, and so I actually bought the
canvas.
I actually bought the canvas of the turtle. But it's like you see this and you think of Samoa or Hawaii or just any Pacific island, and it really connects. I think that's why it's such a huge success, is because it connects us to our culture. And, you know, like a light bulb goes off and reminds us of where we came from and just our culture, where no other calendar is going to do that. So I really believe that's why your calendar is a huge, huge success. And, you know, if you've been to Samoa or you haven't been to Samoa, you've seen pictures, you know, everybody has sees the Faleo'o, you know, that brings back memories. And I know I'm blowing you up, but I just want people to see how amazing this calendar is, and
Leave it there.
how your heart is put into it. And it's just, you can see that every stroke is made with love. So I
That's all
really
true.
appreciate it. And I know I'm such a fangirl, but I love, love, love your work. And
She was so excited. She was like, "This is the calendar. She's the artist. She's the lady."
Oh,
I know. And I was like, oh my God, it's just, I love everything that you do. And I just, you can feel everything in the picture. And I know it's a copy of it. So that's why I got the canvas. But
So backing up a second with that, is every month available on a canvas? Is that
not every, but most of them.
most
Like
of them?
the February art in there is not available on canvas. And I'll also for this year's calendar, I have 2 guest artists on there, and I don't sell their artwork. It's only in the calendar.
Lex. Is it Lex?
Yeah, Lex.
Yeah.
He's
I like him too.
oh yeah, he's awesome. He's amazing. I meet him in person too, and then we found out we're cousins. It's like,
Oh
what?
wow, of course.
Of course.
Sometimes there's only 2 degrees of separation. It's like,
Right.
you
Yeah,
just have to say 2 last names and you can connect. It's awesome.
When was the last time you were back home? Well, home's in South Carolina, but right? But when's the last time you were back in American Samoa?
American Samoa still feels like home, like more than over here. You know, like yeah, American Samoa. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. I haven't been home since my daughter was born, and so I mean it's expensive, man. It's like they don't want us to go home. That flight.
Oh, it's like if you go last minute, like I think we had planned like in advance, so our flight was like 1,300, which was good for, but last minute, you know, like if you go last minute, it's like $1,900 round trip. And then
from South Carolina, like I have to like drive some of the way, to that price, and it's ridiculous. My daughter hasn't been home yet, but it's definitely on our to-do list. Like one day, we really want her. My husband's family is still home. They're from Waitongi, and it's really husband.
Turtle. We were there last year.
Oh, that's awesome.
On the rocks. We saw turtles one day. We saw 2 turtles.
That's cool.
On the
shark.
They were there.
No
shark. Well, there could have been sharks, but there was choppy it was hard to. It would have been hard to see if there was a shark out there. But
yeah, I saw a shark, and it was so beautiful. I did a painting of it, and it was like an orange or a beige shark, and I didn't even know sharks could be that color.
Wow.
My there, he's like, oh yeah, like sharks can get sunburned too. I was like, what? Wow. Like I don't know or what, but I saw like an orangish shark, and I was like, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I've always been in love with sharks since then.
Yeah, one of the elders came out and sang at the cliffs. It was an amazing day.
That is amazing. That sounds awesome. My husband did it. Like he sang, but then he forgot
because he's from Waikongi.
Yeah, he like forgot the song, and I was like, wait, is this? I don't know. Are you doing this right? Oh, my dad, I forgot the song. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think we went there one time and we were like, we didn't see a turtle and a shark. And they're like, no, you have to get somebody from the village to sing the song. And I was like, oh, okay.
And one of the people we were traveling with is from that village. So he got some people from the village that he knew to come out. And at that time we saw sharks. And it was an interesting moment that then we saw 2 turtles. And the elder was saying, oh, well, that means that there's 2 families here. There's 2 people here that have connections to Waikongi. And she goes, obviously my family is. And then she looked at all of us, and I was adopted when I was 6 months old by a Palangi family. So I don't know. I know some of my my paternal grandfather's family, but I don't know about my own father and his family. So when she turns around and she does that very Samoan thing of what's your name, what village are you from, and she goes through everybody, and I keep moving to the other end of the line because I want her to find whoever it is that has that connection, because I don't want her to ask me, and I go, I don't know. And she actually knew one of our first cousin was there, and she said something about your what did she say? Your Allah's daughter, or
Your Allah's daughter.
Yeah, our cousin was like, I don't even know that lady.
I don't know you.
So she goes through everybody, and nobody has another connection to Vaikongi. And so she gets to me, and I'm like, I'm not going to be any help. I don't know. I know that my grandmother's last name was Taufate'e. And she said, oh, that makes sense. Misi Taufate'e was a chief from, and she knew about that, but the whole two turtles thing, she was adamant that there was somebody else on that cliff, on those bluffs, that had a tie to Vaikongi, and she went through each of the people in their family, and she was dead on. She was right. There was another person there that had a tie to the village. It was a really special day.
So cool.
It was awesome. Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, that sounds. And I will tell you, of all the villages in American Samoa that I have been to and met people from those villages, Waitongi, just from my own experience, those people definitely have the most pride in their village and their legend. My husband and his family, when they're drinking and stuff, they like, you'll hear all the like they're so proud of it, and I just think it's so cool. You know, I mean, it's so funny for me because I told myself I was never gonna marry a Samoan. You know, from growing up there and everything, I was like, no, I the Samoan were just not good news. And then I meet my husband, like he's a coconut tree climbing, you know, coconut husky, you know, the pigs every day. Yeah, he's that kind of Samoan from Waitongi. Wow. So I was like, it's amazing the way the world works. I never would have imagined myself in this position, you know, 10 years ago. A Polynesian artist, no one from my childhood, you know, believed it at first.
And here you are.
Ask the 10-year-old you. You think you're going to be teaching Samoan culture and drawing Polynesian art and married to a Samoan? Like if you had asked your 10-year-old you that, you'd have been like, nope. But you're right. Nope. The world works in a God's got a plan for us all.
Yeah.
Oh, that I believe.
That's awesome. We just, you know, I love your work. So I got to go get my calendar. I got to go order my calendar and gift everybody a calendar. But we're so grateful for your work, and your art makes people smile all the time. And I love flipping through, and I purposely go back to your Instagram page just to see, did I miss anything? But I love the work that you're doing. I love the work that you and your husband his support for you is just amazing. And so thank him for us for what he's doing. But it's awesome to see you blowing up, and we are going to push your calendar, girl. We're going to push that calendar. But are there any shout outs you want to get out, or anything you want to get out before we let you go? We've already taken up so much time.
Man, no, I love all you guys. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so, like, I'm all tingly. I wasn't expecting any of this. So I just thank you so much for making my day.
Oh, thank you.
This is one of the best jobs to have in the world. Like, what we do is find Pacific Islanders that are winning in life, and we mean following your passion. So it's not a money thing. It's just bright, glowing people like yourself that love what they're doing. They're winning in life. And we're just like trying to find people like that, get them on here, have a conversation with them, laugh, chop it up. So this is for you to come on and spend time with us. I know that we try not to talk to people before we start. So you got on, and when I was like, we're going live.
Yeah.
Because we have the best conversations when we have them the first time. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
found out very quickly, don't have a good conversation about art and how she went to Washington State and then all those things, and then start the show and
Before,
expect them
yeah.
to say it all over again. So
Yeah. I'm glad
apologize for-
for you guys. Like I'm gonna miss you guys when we log out. Like this is I love meeting like just other people with that, like you said, like that light in them, you know, where like it's not about money, it's about like I don't know.
No, you got it. You got it.
Word.
Hard to explain. It really is hard to explain. And that's why we try to find people like yourself. We try to find people like yourself so that we can show the other generations, younger generations, like this is what finding your passion looks like, and really living your best life of doing what you love. So I love that we found that in you. I love that we get to share your story. I love your calendar.
I don't have an Instagram account, Naki, so get me some.
Yes, I will get you a calendar. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank your family for us, and God bless the rest of your journey.
How do I blow you guys up? Like, do you guys have a website, or is it?
You're doing it right now.
We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, but you're
blowing us up right now.
Yeah,
having you on, people are like, you know,
I could share it somehow.
Your warm market is on, and ours. Like, we need to push, you know, your calendar and
we're gonna push your calendar.
Get the links out there. We'll do that for you. So, you know, you said you didn't like to be that. We'll do it for you.
Okay, well, I mean, you know, let me know how I can share like a link to this or anything.
Yes, I will tag you on the links after we're done here. It goes on YouTube, it goes on our podcast so people can listen if they don't have Facebook, and then it'll just stay here on Facebook for people to share.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Oh, it's late over there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Tawsh. God bless you.
Take care, guys.